Max Coaster, 36 years old. Violation today at bus stop 34B.
What's in the bag?
Hair products, mostly. I'm just gonna, hey, I'm just going to work.
Thank you, citizen.
No, thank you.
Immediate extension of parole duration by a further 8
Wait,
months.
what? No.
Elevation in heart rate detected. Would you like a pill?
No, I am okay. Thank you.
Are you being sarcastic and/or abusive?
Negative.
So, we just watched the Halo movie, Ben.
Yeah, this is what we got instead of fucking Halo. I'm still a bit pissed off about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of potential there, and it's just been squandered on a random project. Was there times when you were watching this, we're reviewing Elysium, which is Neill Blomkamp's new film. Was there a lot of times during this when you thought, that looks like Halo?
Yeah, I was thinking all the way through it, I thought, you know what, this just kind of feels like what I imagined the Halo movie would kind of feel like.
Yeah, especially having watched the 8-minute video we made for, I think it was Halo 3 promo.
Yeah, he got them all in, because that was when they were trying to drum up interest for a Halo movie in the wake of Halo 3, which was way back in 2007, I do believe. Quite a long time ago now, but yeah, I mean, when that kind of fell apart, Peter Jackson obviously was producing that with Neill Blomkamp, and Peter Jackson basically said, look, we can't make this movie anymore, why don't we, go and do some of your own individual stuff? So they made District 9, which was great, it was something really unusual, it was some top-notch sci-fi that was made on a pretty low budget and still looked pretty damn good, and it's very memorable. Nothing's really ever kind of come close to it since, and it was very different from anything that's come before. And this is the second movie of that little deal Peter Jackson and Neill Blomkamp struck up. But you're very right. This kind of does feel like what I imagined the Halo movie would have felt like, which is good because I like Halo. But it's kind of pissing me off because I think, well, we could have at least got a decent fucking Halo movie. Because as much as I really, really like District 9, I don't think Elysium's quite as good or as quite as special as that film was.
I think this looks a lot better. And I think there's some clever camera moves done in this one, but as a piece of entertainment, as a film, I completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, I will agree with you in that this film looks gorgeous. It has a really great style. Neill Blomkamp's a great visual director. He knows how to make things that look fantastic, and it is good. But I think when it comes down to it, this is a kind of a fairly straightforward action film, action thriller, with a sci-fi coat of paint. And it isn't that kind of poignant, unusual sci-fi story that District 9 was.
No. And while there's, you're not sure exactly which way the storylines are going to go early on, because Matt Damon plays quite a complex individual compared to a lot of generic sci-fi films.
I gotta say, I like Matt Damon in this.
Yeah, I thought he was really good.
Yeah,
he kept me guessing with what he was going to do up until the last 20 minutes when it was just like, all right, so you've just cashed in now. You're just going to, follow the, this is a sci-fi film, final third plot, and that's exactly what happened.
I will disagree with you in a bit on that. I kind of, about the fucking halfway mark, if not slightly before that, I kind of guessed how things were going to go, and they pretty much went exactly the way I anticipated. Not that it wasn't a fun ride, but there was absolutely zero surprises in this movie as it went on. It very much played to my expectations, but it was a good ride while it lasted, because as I say, it looks fantastic. Basically Elysium, we'll kind of fill in on the story. So basically Elysium takes place in a world, it takes place in the future where Earth is a polluted, ruined mess. It's basically Mexico has taken over the world.
Yeah, well, it looks like it.
Yeah, and you know what? It's horrible to say that, but all the bits on the shitty, ruined Earth were actually filmed in Mexico.
When it flashed up like Los Angeles 2154, I was like, oh, this isn't Mexico.
This is Mexico City now, isn't it? You got Earth is just a polluted shithole that's overpopulated. There's no work. It's just a hellhole really of poverty and misery and this urban decay. And all the rich people, all the rich white folks, basically said, I've had enough of this, and they built themselves like a giant space station in Earth's orbit called Elysium, which is kind of this paradise. We said about the Halo movie, Elysium's kind of like a cross between a Halo ring from the game and kind of like the Citadel from the Mass Effect game.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought, because it's obviously nowhere near the scale of Halo, and because when you zoom in and you can, when you get close to looking at the outlines of things, you can make out people's houses and stuff on this ring, so I'm not sure what the exact population would be. whereas the Halo rings are enormous. But the Citadel on Mass Effect, it's almost exactly like one of the arms.
Yeah, it's very much reminiscent of that for anyone who's played those games. But yeah, Elysium's is basically kind of like upper class paradise where all the political elite and all the industrial elites, sit and enjoy, well, the good life. Really, they don't have to work. Really, they've got businesses down on Earth that they kind of have to take over. But they just live the high life really, and the children benefit from all the kind of bonuses that come with being in the upper class. And they even go so far as to have these kind of pods that can reatomize parts of your body to cure you for pretty much any ailment whatsoever. So there's no disease whatsoever. It's basically paradise. It's close to heaven, like a real physical heaven, sitting up in the sky as you could probably get. And that's basically the way Earth is. Now, the story opens kind of focusing on a young boy called Max who is an orphan by the looks of things, and he lives in a kind of like a nun-run orphanage, and he makes friends with a young girl called Frey, and the two kind of grow up, and as they grow up, they go on divergent paths, and basically the main film opens up with Matt Damon as older Max, who is living a life where he used to be a car thief. He used to be a bit of a big shot in the kind of underworld in LA, but he's since gone to prison, and he's come out and he's thought, you know what, enough's enough. I'm not doing that shit anymore. I'm just going to keep my head down and go to work day to day and live my life quiet. And he's kind of also grown apart from his childhood friend Frey, who he hasn't seen for a long time until maybe like a quarter of the way through this film when they stumble upon each other again. But she's done all right for herself. She's a nurse and she likes to help people. And basically, Max is just trying to keep his head down day to day. He's on parole and he runs foul of some robot police who just beat the shit out of him. And because of this kind of event with the police, his parole's extended. And basically, he's just trying to, make amends for his mistakes in life and keep his head down. And the world just keeps shitting on him. He does not have a good time with this. He's just constantly getting bad luck. His boss at work is a complete fucking arsehole who's just constantly on his back, and he can't really do anything. I mean, Matt Damon is buff in this movie. He could just kick the shit out of this guy, but he just has to take this shit the guy's giving him and just keep his head down and get on with it. And I felt really sorry for him because this is a guy who's trying to make himself better, because, Christ, it's hard enough in this day and age for ex-cons going straight. Imagine in a world where it's gone to shit.
Yeah.
It must be pretty fucking tough, but, I mean, not giving too much away the story, this is in the trailer, but basically through an industrial accident work, he's poisoned by radiation, and he's given 5 days to live, really, before he dies of complete organ failure. And so he has a plan that he needs to get up to Elysium and use one of these pods to cure himself, and it's kind of like his mission to do that, and it kind of expands into a slightly more lofty ideas. I think there's a lot of, we joked about the Mexico thing, but there's almost a lot of parallels between the current situation with Mexico and the US.
Yeah, especially like with the immigration laws. Is that what you're trying to refer to?
Yeah, like it's like that. Like when they've got these like illegal shuttles making runs to Elysium, it's almost like the Mexicans running across the border trying to get into America. And it's also, I suppose, it has something to say about universal healthcare in America. It's not so much a problem in this country.
Yeah,
we all have universal healthcare, and it's fine for the most part. But America, it's got a bit more. Got a bit of something to say about that, but it never goes that far into these kind of messages. I don't think it focuses squarely on the kind of the kind of more action orientated, the more faster paced orientated bits of this film, because as things progress, basically Matt Damon is kind of going up against a mercenary who works for Elysium, played by Charlotte Copley, and called Kruger, who. He's not a nice guy, Charlotte Copley.
He's horrible.
He's like this really fucking awful Chuck Norris lookalike.
He's like dirty as fuck as well. He's like, which makes it interesting later on when he's sort of, in the second half of the film when he looks a bit cleaner.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting, considering there's one scene where he's just, he's on the top of a roof drinking beer, and he's just like spitting on people and like throwing empty bottles at them and stuff, and he's just like wearing like, what's he wearing? Like a mammoth coat or something, or... He
just wears like a burlap sack, like a cape, and he goes around. He works for Elysium, but he lives on Earth to do their dirty work on Earth, and he just lives in shit, and he just seems to thoroughly enjoy it because he likes just going killing people. That's worth all the shit he has to live with day to day, but he's thoroughly horrible. But he's pretty good at his job. He's a bit of a badass. And when I heard Charlotte Copley was like going up against Matt Damon's a pretty big guy, and he's bulked up in this film. Charlotte Copley never comes across as a very big guy.
No.
But yeah, man, he was cool in this. He was menacing. He was really enjoyable villain, and for a large part of this, he was probably the highlight of this movie for me.
I agree, and it was a nice surprise to see how much screen time he got because I can't even remember seeing him in a trailer.
He's in a bit, but it's normally him just kind of like shouting or like laughing because he's just blowing somebody up. But I don't think he gets much like kind of lines in the trailers, but he certainly has more than enough here, and he's in it a lot, which is great. And he gets pretty dark in places, and I like that because while he was a complete bastard, and I was never really sure how far he was going to go.
Yeah.
I always liked him at the same time.
Because he is like an erratic like beast, really.
Yeah.
He was almost like a wild man because like he was all scruffy, he had a big beard, but his like movements were always jerky, and he's like probably a psychopath. I don't think that's anything.
Well, they established early on that like he's so bad that Elysium doesn't even really like to acknowledge that he exists. You know, they kind of want to really disown him and get rid of him, but he's accused of like just multiple homicides and murder and rape and all sorts of crazy shit, and he doesn't really give a shit. And like because of the early part of the film, they kind of list all the shit he's done. There were certain parts in this film I was like, Jesus, this film, I don't know how far it's going to go, but it always kept me guessing. So I like that. I really like that. So yeah, Charles Copley was probably the highlight. I thought he was a great villain. He was a bit of a cartoon villain, but it was good fun, and it's kind of what it needed because the other villain in this is Jodie Foster as Delacourt. She's Defense Secretary Delacourt, who's kind of in charge of protecting Elysium and making sure dirty immigrants, keep out. I wasn't a fan of Jodie Foster in this movie.
I liked her character, but I don't think that's any credit to give Jodie Foster in this. She tries to put on this peculiar accent that I just really can't place.
It's so fucking weird. It's kind of like a cross between... It's an American doing a kind of English accent via Microsoft Sam.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
It's
so every now and again,
bizarre.
though, she would pronounce like an American... Like, she'd pronounce a word in an English accent, but she'd say the American version of the word. So every time she said like data, she would always say, "Oh, pass the data," and it's like,
and she would also break into French every so often.
Yeah, which blew is.
I understand Delacourt's probably it sounds French, but she's blatantly not French. I don't even know what accent she is. Was she raised on Elysium in a multicultural area? Because her accent's all over the fucking place. Yeah, Jodie Foster for me in this, Delacourt as well was just kind of there. She was like the big corporate kind of baddie who was just there to give Kruger some direction, Charlotte Copley's character some direction to actually go out and fight with Matt Damon. But yeah, she kind of fell flat for me in this. But it doesn't.
She's one of those like. I mean, this is probably a script issue, but she's one of those villains in a film that she's so cold that she ends up like screwing herself over.
Yes.
Because she's all the way through. She's after Matt Damon and the stuff that he knows, and it's like if at any point he just asked, "Oh, you just want to come up to here to be healed? All right, I'll tell you what, I'll heal you as long as like you just cooperate with me." Because I'm fairly certain early on in the film, anyway, Matt Damon would have gone along with that.
Oh yeah, that's it. I mean, she's just such a bitch that you're right, she kind of fucks her own plans up, especially because she has to then rely on a psychotic kind of cyborg with his own agenda. So yeah, she's not the greatest of villain, but Charlotte Copley kind of makes up for her shortcomings. Matt Damon, we kind of touched on it. He plays like, you know, likable Matt Damon with a bit of a badass streak. You know, you kind of know what you're getting, but I do like him.
And this is one of my favourite Matt Damon performances.
I do like him.
I'm not a huge Matt Damon fan normally. And I think I'm one of the few people that, you know, didn't enjoy the later Bourne films.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, I really didn't like the middle one. But I liked him in Green Zone, and apparently no one else did in that either. So I liked him in this a lot, because he was a badass, but he ultimately had a heart, and he was only doing things out of pure desperation, and he was trying to do the right thing a lot of the time.
Well, I actually like the fact that for the most part he is just like, look, I just want to get healed. I don't give a shit about all these other problems. And there's a bit of development goes on, and give him something to do rather than just, you know, punch people in the face.
It was nice to watch like the main character of a film not be this out and out hero. Like for long parts of the film, like at the start, he's just trying to keep his nose out of trouble. Mm-hmm. But then when, you know, the plot kicks off, it's all about self-preservation.
Yeah, and he's just doing whatever he can, and he's on the back foot through a lot of this movie. I mean, he gets the shit kicked out of him. One thing I did like about this movie, though, particularly for his character Max, is the like it was a bit of a kind of summer blockbuster bit, but the kind of super strength exoskeleton he gets.
Yeah, it plays out a lot better than it did in the trailer. Because the way it was like in the trailer is like, oh, if you wear this, you'll be able to crash the whole system. It's got nothing to do with the exosuit's just to keep him like not dying.
Yeah, because he's fucked over because of his. Yeah, it's basically just to kind of, as you say, give him a leg to stand on, really, because he's like keeling over with radiation sickness. And like normal people, it would make them like an incredibly efficient fighting machine. But with Matt Damon, because of his illness, it kind of balances him out.
Yeah, he ends up about normal. It's like he gets this suit put on and you think, oh, he's going to kick some ass now. And like in the next fight he's in, it's like it's even, and he's fighting against a guy not in an exosuit. I'm like, God, he is really fucked up if he didn't have that.
Yeah, and he as I say, he's on the back foot. He gets the hell knocked out of him, and he gets fucking stabbed and beaten on and all sorts of horrible shit. He doesn't really come off particularly well, and I like that because in the end of the day, he's a street tough against fucking like intergalactic mercenaries.
Yeah, and which is like, if this had been any more like, if this had been Oblivion with like the Tom Cruise film, it was so sci-fi cliche that he would have like just been able to like beat them down easy or whatever. Whereas in this, they actually try to make it realistic. He was born on the streets. He's probably malnourished, and now he's dying of radiation poisoning. He's not going to be able to beat them all the time.
Yeah, you're right. So yeah, I like that. You also got a girl called Alice Braga here, who I recognise her off something. I believe she was in City of God, Paul's favourite film.
Yes.
But I recognise her for something more recent, but I can't remember what the hell it is, because she's quite distinct looking. But she plays Freya, his kind of childhood sweetheart, I would have thought, and she has a kind of own plot going on where her daughter's got leukemia. And there's no cure on Earth, but there is in Elysium, and she wants to try and get something sorted there. And I liked Alice Braga though.
Liked her in this, and I know exactly where I know her from. She's from the two she's definitely from my least favorite sci-fi that I've seen, which is Repo Man.
Is she?
Yeah.
I liked Repo Man.
Did you like Repo? I did not like Repo.
It was good fun. It was a ridiculous ending, though.
Yeah, that was one I didn't like it. Repo Man, it's one of them sci-fis where it starts off with such a great concept, and then it just descends into a brawly action film, which I can say that this one fairly went down a similar track towards the end.
Not quite as extreme as that, though. It's a higher tier of that type of movie, I would say.
This film was never put on the political spectrum. It was used as a backdrop, whereas in Repo Man, you drummed into this thing all the way along.
Yeah. About
right and wrong, and then it's like, oh, we have to crash the system.
But Forrest Whitaker, man.
I know I like Forrest Whitaker.
Forrest Whitaker is awesome in that film. I just love the fact that Forrest Whitaker is kind of this slightly tubby, he doesn't look like a badass at all, but in that film he's tough as shit.
Yeah,
and it's ridiculous, and I just loved it. I thought it was a crazy film, but I liked it. It was fun. But yeah, back onto Elysium. Yeah, Alice Braga. I liked her.
There's not really anyone else in this. I mean, there's a guy that plays, what would you call him? Like the tech, the criminal overlord, but he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? For this kind of scumbag criminal who he's got an army of fucking Mexicans fighting for him. But he's actually just kind of this computer nerd who runs illegal shuttles into Elysium.
He walks with a limp. He was good fun.
I liked him. Yeah, he was kind of a bit of comic relief without being too overbearing, I suppose. And the character's called Spider, and he's played by Wagner Moura, who I recognise, but I can't place him. I've had a look on his IMDb page, and I just can't think I've seen him in anything. But goddamn, when I was watching that film, I was like, who the fuck is he? I know him off something. But
I'm not sure it was him, maybe, but his the character look and the role reminds me of The Eyes of the Universe from Serenity, the movie.
Yeah, maybe that's why I was thinking him, because the guy sounds a bit like him, but obviously Wagner Moura is kind of a more Hispanic kind of version of that guy. But I liked him. I did like him. He was cool.
Fucking William Fichtner, sorry.
William Fichtner, the future Shredder of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie. I didn't expect him to be in it, and he's not in it a terrible amount, but he's always worth the price of admission.
Apart from the Turtles movie coming up when it's been announced that William Fichtner's in it, every time I see him in a film, I don't expect him to be there. He's never an actor that's listed in a trailer or anything.
No, you're right. He's a guy who just he's an actor who just makes a living just by kind of reasonably low profile roles, but he's got that many of them. He does pretty well for himself.
He's like William H. Macy used to do that, and when to a fair extent, apart from the odd hotspot, Gary Oldman used to be that guy as well. But because I want to see Lone Ranger, and William Fichtner plays like one of the villains in that. And
yes, he does, doesn't he?
He's even mentioned in any trailers. He's like the main villain.
Yeah. The other guy I want to mention, just looking at his page actually, was the president of Elysium, who wasn't in it a whole lot, but
I can't remember his name. Right? He's Captain someone who his first mate was James Kirk's dad.
Ah, right. Well, I was going to say the guy is Farhan Tahir, and he is the leader of the terrorists in the original Iron Man. Who takes,
oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, I did recognise him off something else. I actually thought he was off Sunshine, but no, that's a completely different guy. So I come across as slightly racist now.
Well, no, now it's when he was never in Star Trek, and I'm just thinking all semi-Indian.
No, he is in Star Trek. So I recognise him from
Captain
Iron Man.
Robow. Yes.
So yeah, he was President Patel. Not in a lot, but I thought worth a mention because he took Tony Stark hostage and then became president of the future white
and then he
class.
And then he captained a starship and was killed by
Eric Bana.
Rick Banner, yeah.
Well, that's funny what comes around, isn't it? So yeah, I mean the cast generally good. I think Jodie Foster's easily the weakest link here. Matt Damon's pretty damn good. Charles Copley's great. But yeah, like I said, like this is it's more an action film than it is a raw sci-fi film.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty good one. There's plenty of exciting bits. One thing I loved about this, and it kind of plays into Neill Blomkamp being a really good, like, he knows how to create kind of worlds that are really cool and look great. I love the weapons in this film. And now it's a strange thing to bring up in a film review, but the weapons here were so fucking cool because they feel like weapons that are a natural progression to ones we have these days. Like, laser guns and shit are a bit cartoony, maybe. Like, I can't really see laser guns really being a thing anytime soon.
Yeah.
Whereas I can see these ridiculous fucking weapons coming into play. Like, some of the weapons we've got these days are crazy powerful. But like, they may be a bit rare, very expensive, reduced. And you can kind of imagine them filtering down to kind of street level eventually.
Yeah,
So,
it's just like high velocity, high impact stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like, there's a gun that Matt Damon uses early on, which is essentially a retrofitted AK-47 with this kind of new gadget fitted to it, and it fires bullets that explode. It explains that it explodes in a 5-meter radius to just shred everything around it. So it doesn't. The bullet doesn't hit the target. It explodes just before it reaches it to just cause this ridiculous impact. And there's this awesome scene where he shoots a robot with about, well, I don't know, like 10 or so bullets, and it's just like getting progressively more shredded to little chunks as these bullets like kind of explode around it. It looks absolutely gorgeous.
You see it in 3D?
I didn't know.
No, neither did I.
No, but
I bet that bit looked good in 3D.
Yeah, I think that was one of the money shots. But there's another gun, like he uses a rail gun later on in the film. That's just fucking insane. The carnage. And what I loved about this film as well is that the weapons. I mean, we mentioned the weapons because they're so damn good because they felt like they had such an impact. They fuck people up.
Oh god, and you see it, like. What's bizarre, I'm going to get slightly off topic here, but the people behind me, there's a scene early on where Charlotte Copley swears at this little girl, like, right to her face.
I love that. I just did not expect it.
No, I didn't expect it either, but they were, like, bursting out laughing, and I was just like, that was a bit inappropriate, I thought. No need for laughing about that. And then about 45 minutes later, someone gets, like, their face blown off with a high, like, power grenade.
Oh, God, yeah.
Damn, it's visual.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't hold anything back whatsoever. And these guys behind me, there's like 8 of them, like fully grown men, went, "Oh!" And it's just like, you think that's bad, like.
Yeah, it was. That was fucking unexpectedly graphic. The face getting blown off. I was taken by surprise when it happened. I was like, "Shit, did that happen? Or
Yeah, no.
did I just imagine that?" And then like kind of later on, it's no, it definitely happened. It's pretty fucked up. But there's like people just get like they get hit by these weapons and they just disintegrate into bloody chunks. I mean, we talked about the robot getting shredded. The sick part of me was like, God damn, I wonder what that does to a human.
Yeah,
and then 10 seconds later, I found out. I was like, oh shit.
It's like one of them times when the robots look really well designed, and I was thinking for a long time at the start of the film, like they move really slick as well. They look like human movements, but it's
really
a robot.
Cool. It was really cool. The robots.
I was thinking, when he blew that first robot up, I was going, so they've got the robots in, they've spent all the money making them look good because obviously he's going to be fighting robots for the rest of the film just to make so he doesn't have to kill humans or something.
No, I think he pretty much kills one robot, doesn't he?
Yeah. I was like, that was the one robot he killed, and then from the rest of the film on, it's all humans. I'm like, I'm just impressed that they used so much money to make the robots look good, and then never used them after that first one.
Yeah, I was kind of good because it just the gunfights just felt meaty because it's like, oh Jesus, please, nobody gets shot because it's just going to make a hell of a mess. It's horrendous. But yeah, that was shocking. It was surprisingly violent. Is this film a 15?
I don't know.
It should be. It certainly should not be a 12A, and it's not quite as bad to be an 18. But goddamn it was surprisingly gory in places. But I loved it, man. It just felt so great. So like it made the combat feel very meaty. Pardon the pun. Because there was meat getting spread everywhere. But yeah, I did like that part of it. The sadist in me liked that.
So like, there's a lot this does well, but. I came out of the pictures and I went to see it with my friend David, and I asked him what was his favourite bits, because I kind of got the inside track on his mind. And I knew exactly which bit he was going to say was his favourite, and he liked the sort of the last half hour.
The big climax, I suppose.
Yeah. And while the fight was good and the climax was good, I just felt like it descended into generic corridor shooter.
Yeah, I know what you meant. It was, yeah.
The first hour and a half it felt more Blomkampy. It felt, it was more in his style. It was like out in the dusty, grimy world, and I just preferred that look.
No, I agree. I think because the first half set in this kind of ruined Earth, it's its very own place. It doesn't feel like anywhere else. The closest place it feels to is District 9, and it's very different because there's not giant cockroaches walking around, and none of that, but. It felt like a unique place. You were learning a lot about it. You were learning about the technology that inhabits this world and the way it works and the people in it. Whereas as the film went on, it reduced itself more and more down to let's run around shooting each other and have fun. And as I say, it was great. The combat was really, really impactful. Charlotte Copley was a great villain, and it was good. But I know exactly what you're saying, and where you come away thinking. I liked that film. I liked it a lot because of it was a good summer action film with a bit of an edge to it.
Yeah, it's nice that they didn't go for the 12A rating.
Yeah, definitely. But at the same time, I only saw this last night, and I can't really remember a whole lot of detail of this film. I can remember the broad strokes.
Yeah, me exactly.
But already I'm starting to forget the intricacies, and I wouldn't even say there was a whole lot there. As I say, as well, sitting halfway through this film, I was like, man, this, I know pretty much where this is going to go, I think. And I was kind of sitting there going, hey, it's Neill Blomkamp, I hope it goes in a direction that I don't expect, but no, it didn't. In fact, maybe a little bit of a spoiler here, but the only thing this film didn't do that I really expected it to do was to have Frey say that her dying daughter was actually Matt Damon's character's daughter, and she just never told him about it. That didn't happen, luckily, because I would have been like, oh, for fuck's sake. But that's pretty much the only thing that I expected to happen that didn't. Everything else kind of, was just kind of par for the course. It's very well signposted.
It's peculiar though, because I agree with you. Maybe from the halfway point, I was thinking how it was going to end, but at that point, his character wasn't in a position where that could possibly happen. So I was just like, he's got to go through a lot to get to where I think it's going to go, in terms of character and plot. And then eventually it got there, and I was like, well, I mean, I just liked it early on when he was just like out for himself. I mean, he had to have some sort of revelation, but
yeah, you needed a conclusion, and it's not an unsatisfactory one. It's a pretty good climax, as far as these action kind of crescendos come. But I think in the grand scheme of things, it's a bit more atypical. And I think for people going into this saying, oh, it's District 9's director, it's going to be another kind of sci-fi classic or cult classic, you're probably not going to get it. I think this is a really solid action sci-fi movie, but it's not a classic. And I think because of that, I think this is a really solid movie, and I think that people should definitely go and see it. The pictures, it looks gorgeous. I don't know what the budget was in this film, but
it was about 230 mil. It got less than you'd think.
But damn, it looks really spectacular. It looks very unique. I loved it, but it just lacked that special something. I'd still recommend people go and see this if you're any way interested in this film. It's a very different film to District 9, but it's still good, and it's very good at what it does, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Neill Blomkamp does. I'd actually like to see him move away from sci-fi and try his hand at something else, despite it being really probably one of the better sci-fi people out there, really, for original...
Unless he's listening, and he's got a Halo offer, and then we do not want you to move away from sci-fi.
No. I think that ship's sold. Set sail a long time ago.
Where it turns out that he's directing the new TV show for Xbox Live.
Hey, that would be pretty good. Thing is, though, I don't know. Like, if it was like Forward Unto Dawn, maybe not. But if it was like a short, which was kind of like fucking in the trenches, that would be much better. But I digress. I think he's actually gone on record saying that he probably, even if he was offered it again, he wouldn't take it because he's moved on. All
right, Del Toro then.
I mean, ultimately for me, I like this movie. I didn't love it, but I really did like it. Charlotte Copley makes it worth the price of admission alone, and on top of that, you've got a really solid film that's a little bit predictable, but looks gorgeous and is entertaining all the way throughout. And for me, I think this is a really high B+.
Well, I was going to say B-, so me in the middle.
Yeah, sure. So this is a really solid B of a film as a kind of compromise. As I say, I think people should go and see it. If you're interested in this in the slightest, go and see it. You'll not be upset or regret it. I don't think there's a lot to dislike about this film. It just doesn't hit the mark as much as I expected. And it was a little bit cookie cutter and predictable, which brings it down a little bit. But hey, man, I'm looking forward to seeing more from Neill Blomkamp, because his films are worth a watch just for how they look and how they kind of feel. That, as I say, I can't get enough of the combat in Elysium. It was so visceral. It was great. I kind of want to see it again, but it'll probably wait till it gets released on Blu-ray. But
I'd like to see it again without arseholes talking behind me.
Yeah, it's never good.
There was one moment, you know, when they crash land, the Matt Damon's ship crash lands on Elysium near the end, before Spider's plane lands. It was like, as it's crashing through, they did that thing where they cut the sound out, so because there's no sound in space. And I think you're watching, you see the ship land from space while it's still silent, while it crashes, and this guy behind me just goes, "Boo!" as the ship crash landed. I was like, dick.
I know. God damn, there's people. I get annoyed. I'm getting really old and crotchety.
No.
But I get annoyed now when people start, like, talking when the trailers are on.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, motherfucker, I might have seen Kevin Bacon do the conga 16 times, but I want to see it again.
No, I agree. As far as I'm concerned, as soon as the trailer starts, that's when, like, the enjoyment stops.
Hell, I'd even go further and say just the fucking adverts, alright? Because sometimes there's some good trailers, especially, like, towards the Christmas, because you get a lot of game trailers.
Yeah.
And the chances are I've seen them, but I want to see them on the big fucking screen.
We need to open a ScreenHog chain of cinemas and, get a crack down on this shit.
We just need the Alamo Draft House to start opening in the UK.
No, listen up. We need them here. I mean,
yeah,
they've opened up a similar system in somewhere in London that I'm going to go try out.
Yeah. I like the way the Alamo Draft House does things. It's very good. Thing is, though, can you imagine? I don't know who would it attract really, because there's so many dickheads. I feel that people like us are far outweighed by the moronic public. Not that I'm saying everyone in the public's moronic. God damn, I'm such a bitter old man, and I'm only 24.
I know, but you see, I don't think that, if the Alamo Draft House opened here, they wouldn't be showing like Paranormal Activity 8 times a day instead of showing Argo. So.
Oh man, no! You'll never let that go, will you?
No.
Activate Kruger.
Follow me. Stay close.
They will hunt you to the edge of the earth for this. You have no idea what's happening.